Today on The Journal, construction of the Rossford Arena Amphitheatre has come to a halt, and backers want to use city dollars to guarantee loans and save the project. Should Rossford and Perrysburg Township taxpayers bail out this stalled amphitheater project, or let it die? That's our topic today on The Journal. You're looking at a site near I-75 and the Ohio Turnpike in the city of Rossford, the future home of the Rossford Arena Amphitheatre. But construction stopped last November after the arena backers ran out of money. Good afternoon, I'm Marlene Harris-Taylor. Welcome to The Journal. Today we're talking with officials from Rossford and Perrysburg Township about a new plan to get the project moving again. Vince Langevin, Rossford City Administrator and a member of the Arena Authority Board, will tell us about the bailout plan. Also here today is Nathan Hagemeister, chair of the Perrysburg Township Trustees, and from the Sentinel-Tribune newspaper, the reporter who's been covering the story, David DuPont. I'd like to welcome you all to The Journal today.
Nice to be here.
It's a pleasure having you here today. And you can join our conversation from home. The telephone number is on the screen, 1-800-255-9248. Mr. Langevin, we're going to start with you this afternoon so that you could tell us about this plan. I'm calling it a bailout plan. You might have a different term for it. That was presented to the Rossford City Council this past Tuesday.
Correct. Yeah, I don't like the term bailout either. I think we're still pursuing just normal financing is the first thing. A little history of where we got, how we got to where we are. We were with a bond underwriter about a year ago who was totally assured, or who totally assured us, that we would be able to have the other $40 million we needed to go with the $7.5 million we already had. It wasn't like it was his first time doing this because he just finished doing an arena in St. Charles, Missouri.
So the total price for the package that you're going to need is approximately $47 million.
For the arena amphitheater total, that's a round number that we use. Now,
okay.
The number, or the thing that we're talking about today would be to do this kind of in phases and start with just the amphitheater phase.
Okay, because there's an amphitheater where there will be concerts and things like that held, and then there's an arena, which is where the hockey team would play.
Right. So in trying to do the $47.5 million, we were assured by our previous underwriter that the numbers, the sheer numbers of this thing for the first 5 years are incredible, and that they would carry us to the market.
Now, what do you mean by that, the sheer numbers are incredible?
The projections that are out there say that there's no way that this thing can lose money. But
it's a sure money maker.
Right. If you think about the projections for a second, the projections show a $400,000 positive cash flow after $1.5 million debt service and about $250,000 worth of expenses. So in the first year, it would flow positive cash at $400,000. Then by the year, about 5 years out, it would be about $1.5 million positive cash flow beyond that point.
So what does that mean, though, in terms?
That means
in everyday terms, $1 million positive cash flow.
Okay.
Does that mean the city of Rossford would have $1 million sitting in the bank?
It means there's more money left over after all the bills paid than not.
Okay.
And it's important from the standpoint that when we go to the taxpayers and say, we want you to back this thing, if there is a shortfall, our projections show there are no shortfalls.
Okay.
And that probably won't be necessary to back it.
But you do acknowledge, though, that there's been a change in philosophy in the project as far as whether or not the taxpayers would have to be liable at all.
That's true. And the change didn't come necessarily from us. The change came from the fact that our original bond underwriter said, we don't need the city's backing for anything. The numbers are good enough to get the job done on the whole $47.5 million.
So the first person who was giving you advice told you, this is the route
our
we can
first
go.
underwriter. His job is to sell the bonds.
Okay.
His job, he gets his commission by selling the bonds.
Okay.
If he doesn't sell the bonds, he doesn't make a nickel.
Okay, so this is the bond salesperson who
Yeah,
told you,
bond
we don't
underwriter.
need the city of Rossford to back this
Right,
up.
nor any other government for that matter.
So then when did the change occur?
When we went with the newest underwriter that we have now. We fired the first guy,
Okay.
and we have
That's
a new
good to
guy.
know.
We have a new guy, and the new guy is saying to us, your numbers are incredible. They are very good. However, when somebody comes to buy bonds, they say, well, the numbers are wonderful, but what if they flunked Math 101? Then where are we? And then where are we is who pays the bill? And that's why now this underwriter is saying to us, we need the city to have some faith and some backing in this thing. Now, the important part here is that we're not talking about the city going out and floating a tax levy. We're talking about the city pledging millage in the event there is a shortfall. All projections show that there will be no shortfall. The lowest number is a positive $400,000. So the amphitheater...
So the worst case scenario still shows you making money.
Absolutely. And the amphitheater has been referred to several times as a cash cow. That may be a little crass term, I guess, but it really does make a lot of money. All amphitheaters make a lot of money. We have 15,000 people come there for an event. We're planning 25 to 27 events, and we pay anywhere from $25 to $35 to $50 to $60 a head to do that. Mm-hmm. So there's just a lot of money, and there is no overhead.
Yeah, well, I guess, I'm not a resident of the city of Rossford or Perrysburg Township, but I guess as an average person, when I hear officials telling me, well, this place is going to be a cash cow, there's no way it can lose money, it'll be difficult for me to understand then why it's hard to get a good bond rating for something that is just such a positive venture and there's no way it could lose money.
Well, I think the important thing to remember when we use the $47.5 million figure is that this is the first time probably in the country that an arena and an amphitheater have been put back to back. And the reason they were put back to back is because this amphitheater flows so much extra money, so to speak, it would make up for any shortfall in the arena side. The arena side is where the exposure is. If you run an arena really well, and we have some good people in the Olympia folks who will run it well, you're just lucky if you break even with an arena.
I see.
And that's because you have to run some shows that really aren't lucrative, but they're things the community demands, needs, that kind of thing.
I see.
But we had the amphitheater over on this side to supply the extra cash needed for the shortfall on the arena side. And the problem here, and that's why we didn't think we needed a government. Now, we're going just for the amphitheater. Forget the arena. We're going to do the amphitheater first, then we're going to come back and pick up the arena at a later date.
But it's fair to say that the project is stalled at this point.
It's real fair to say. There's nobody out there.
Nothing happening since this past November.
Right.
Is there any chance then that you could lose out on even having the amphitheater up and running by this summer and to be able to host those concerts there that you were planning to do?
That's a strong possibility. What we're trying to do right now is finish the amphitheater. It's about 40% finished right now. We're trying to finish the amphitheater in the next 18 weeks. Given that, we've checked with a promoter who said that they can put on a 10-concert season yet before the season ends sometime in late September, early October.
But you need what to get that to happen?
We need to finance all the necessary to finish the amphitheater. In round numbers, that would include some shortfall from the arena itself, and it would include paying back Perrysburg Township $5 million. In round numbers, it's a $15 million project.
About $15 million you need right now to get things going.
Right.
Okay.
That would
well, let's take a break and go
simpler.
to the phone lines because Tom from Perrysburg has a question or comment this afternoon. Tom, welcome to the Journal.
Hello? Hello?
Hi, Tom. How are you today?
I'm fine.
I can't hear you very well. I don't know if the folks at home can hear you, but we can't hear you very well in the studio here. But what is your question or comment this afternoon?
Okay, my question to Mr. Langevin is if the bond underwriter said that they needed no government backing all along, either from Rossford or any other government body, why did they go to Perrysburg Township and ask them for money then?
Tom, I hate to ask you this because we just got our audio problem fixed here in the studio. Can you repeat that question for us?
Sure. My question is, Mr. Langevin had stated that the bond underwriter said that they did not need any money from Rossford or any other governmental body. Then why did they go to Perrysburg Township for money if all along they were told they didn't need any government backing?
Okay. Well, I'll let Mr. Langevin answer that question. So Tom's question was, then why did Perrysburg Township put money up front then if there was no need to have a government backing this?
Well, I think the interesting part of this is that Perrysburg Township didn't put money up against the arena and amphitheater initially. They put money up against the parkway that we built there. We built an $8 million parkway, which included water and sewer lines, which connected Perrysburg Township to our water and sewer lines and gave Perrysburg Township the opportunity to have water and sewer in their township without the request of annexation, which normally cities do.
I see. So the money they put up initially wasn't going toward the arena or the amphitheater. They invested $5 million in the Parkway project. Okay. Well, Mr. Hagemeister is here from the Perrysburg Township Trustees. And Mr. Hagemeister, when the Township Trustees heard about the change in philosophy that came about as a result of hiring a new bond company, what was your first reaction to that?
Well, we haven't had a lot of reaction. We had one meeting when Mr. Langevin, Mr. Zukowski, and the bond man came into a meeting and apprised us of a preliminary, and I think it kind of got a little bit ahead of what even Mr. Langevin was expecting to do, because they came into an open meeting, and so consequently information got out into the public before they were really hoping to get it out, which was good, bad, indifferent. I don't know where it went so far as Rossford was concerned, but it was not necessarily planned that was going to happen that way, but they presented us with an idea, and I can say that after it hit the news, we had a lot of people. We have had some very...
Can I ask you to back up for a moment?
Okay.
And share with the folks who are watching, what was that idea they presented to you in the meeting?
Well, it's this bond issue, the refunding for the financing of the amphitheater, and having an arrangement whereby the township and the city of Rossford would agree to guarantee any shortfall if there was a shortfall. There was just what he had talked about and what you had mentioned at the beginning of the program.
Okay. So then you were presented with this idea.
Right.
And
then it hit the news, and our constituents have been very adamant in the fact that they don't want to see any more Perrysburg Township money being put into this. They feel that we have invested $5 million and it's there. They don't want to see us going any farther into debt with any of this project. So they are extremely negative on that.
Okay. So, but won't Perrysburg Township benefit from the project, though, on the other end, if everything is completed and everything is up and running as planned?
Well, I'm not sure how much benefit that particular part was. The township will benefit indirectly from everything that's going to be going on in that entire area that they have annexed from the city, but I'm not sure whether you're going to say that we're going to benefit, because a lot of the traffic that comes out will go onto township roads. We'll have some potential problems for our emergency people taking care of traffic that project might generate. So directly, I think the answer would have to be no, that the township will not benefit directly from it. Personally, I want to see it go. I've been involved. I'm a non-voting member of the RAAA. I sit on the board. And
the RAAA is the...
Rossford Arena Amphitheater Authority.
So this is the board that's...
The governing board of the amphitheater,
this project together and will govern it.
So I sit on that board. I've been enthused about it. When I came on board, I have been a trustee just since last June. I was appointed because there was a resignation from the board. I was appointed, and then I was elected in the fall. But I've been sitting on the board. I went to the people in Rossford and said, hey, I think that we need to have a little more interaction here. We need to see what's going on, to be there. So Rossford agreed that I should sit on the board, or somebody from the township should sit on the board and be able to listen, take part in any kind of conversation.
So you say that Rossford won't directly benefit, I'm sorry, not Rossford, Perrysburg Township won't benefit directly from the project, but yet you say you want to see it go. Why is that?
Well, because it's there. When I started to say, when I came on board, the project was already in motion. The money has been spent, the money that we have invested, the money that has come from others, it's half there. We don't want to see a sledding hill in our township or next door to our township. We want it to go because eventually that whole project is going to help the township. Okay. Directly right now, today, if it were finished next week, there would not be a direct benefit other than possibly some people in our motel hotel area, but the township is not developed at this point. It's in developing right now. We have a new development going on Route 20, just south of the Rossford area, which is being developed partly because of that water and sewer line that Vince mentioned earlier.
It'll spur other things.
It will.
That
It
will
will help.
benefit.
It will be a catalyst for a lot of other growth in the area.
Well, let's go back to the phone lines, because I understand Tom from Perrysburg is back. I guess Tom didn't get a full answer the last time. So, Tom, did you have another question you wanted to get in this afternoon?
Yes, thank you. Mr. Langevin kind of sidestepped my question. I understand they spent $8 million to get a water line up there, but I wanted to know why they wanted the $5 million reinvested that they paid back early, and also why they asked for $1 million a year credit for 5 years if they did not need any governmental backing, like you said. They have asked Perrysburg Township for $10 million, basically, and he said they didn't need any government backing. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks for calling back in. Mr. Langevin, did you have a response?
Well, I think the whole thing gets involved in some terminology, I guess. When we're talking about government backing, we're talking about the full faith and credit of the city of Rossford. In the original arena amphitheater financing package, which was the $47.5 million we talked about, there was government involvement in a debt reserve fund. City of Rossford had pledged hotel motel tax, and it had pledged admissions tax, as well as the township pledged hotel motel tax in the original package. But that was in a debt reserve fund, once again, a contingency fund based on any shortfall being picked up by that contingency fund. And that's maybe where the confusion is.
David looked like he wants to jump in here.
Yeah, I think part of one of the things that makes it such a challenge to cover this story is it is very complicated. And the financing arrangements were very complicated, especially at the beginning, because you had people putting money into debt reserve funds. You had this $5 million that was here, and all of a sudden it was over here. It's a very, very complicated financial matter, and I think that scares people.
It's difficult for everyday people, like myself, to understand, too.
And it scares people. People think $5 million, boy, that's a lot of money. And I think I can imagine the folks in the township and thinking, boy, that's going down the drain. Folks in Rossford say, well, it's not. This is like investing it. And I think your interest rate was quite competitive that you're paying on that. And Rossford has made interest payments on that. But it's complicated. And then when you have this new plan sort of come out, all of a sudden it's in the news that now they want the township and the city to put full faith and credit behind it. I think that has a tendency to scare people more.
And adding to the confusion.
No, I think this plan, as I was writing it, I found this easier to explain than some of the financial underpinnings earlier, because it is pretty straightforward.
Okay. Well, let's go back to the phones and talk to Jim from Rossford, because Jim has a question or comment today. Welcome to the Journal, Jim.
Hello.
Hi. Your question or comment today?
I have a question for Mr. Langevin. How come a group of just a few people in the city, none of the citizens were really notified what was going on until they read in the Blade about building this stadium? Maybe if people in the city would have known ahead of time before just pushing it on at the last minute, and then all of a sudden making fools of the city by having us stuck. They have to build it now because we're stuck. I just want to know why the citizens weren't notified until they read in the Blade that they were actually building the stadium and getting a deal with their Red Wings ahead of time.
Thank you for your comments today, Jim. So Jim's question is that perhaps the citizens of Rossford should have been brought into the process earlier, because this project has been planned for how many years?
The arena and amphitheater has been in a feasibility study or a conceptual study that we did probably 6 years ago. This is not the first time we've talked about arena and amphitheaters.
But the big announcement on this particular one, came just a little over a year ago. At what point were Rossford residents brought into the conversation? When were they notified about the plans for this?
Well, I think that officially, the first official announcement came when the Red Wings announced they were bringing the Adirondack Red Wings to the arena. Actually, that came very prematurely. We as city officials weren't ready for that to happen. it was leaked through a Detroit newspaper, and next thing you know, we were in the arena and amphitheater business more months than we care to mention before we were ready.
But what about Jim's point? Do you think there's any validity to his point that the Arena Amphitheater Board has not been doing a good job of keeping the Rossford citizens notified about what's going on?
Well, I think maybe Jim hasn't been paying attention, because the Arena Amphitheater Board, Rossford Arena Amphitheater Authority, was created by the council of the city of Rossford. It was done in open sessions. It was reported in the news, and maybe he needs to read a different paper. I know the Record and the Journal did a good job.
The Sentinel?
I'm the Sentinel, yes, the Sentinel.
He's too busy reading the Blade, huh? He needs to read the Sentinel more. Well, what do you think, David? Do you think that there's a sense, when you're out there reporting on this story, is there a sense in the community that people don't know what's going on?
I think that's a problem in reporting a lot of stories, that oftentimes people miss things until all of a sudden they're in front of us, and you can look at any number of stories over the past years that people sort of ignore them. I know I reported from a city council meeting probably at least a year before the official announcement, Vince saying that, yes, they were looking at this arena amphitheater. On the other hand, a lot of the preliminary work before the Arena Amphitheater Authority was founded was done by an economic development group that was not a public group, that was a private public partnership, and their meetings were closed. Part of that has to do with real estate dealings, and they're dealing with a lot of real estate, but it was still closed, and the information coming out of that was probably not as full as a lot of people would have hoped.
Okay. Let's go back to the phone lines and speak with Cindy from Perrysburg. Cindy, your question or comment this afternoon?
Yes, I've been to several of the meetings, and something that I really never come clear on yet was that the amphitheater is in an island, which is surrounded by the township all the way around. And what are they going to do about the fire protection and the police protection? This is going to cost the township more money.
You mean Perrysburg Township?
Exactly.
Okay. Well, let's see if Mr. Hagemeister has a response to that.
Well, we have been in discussion with the city of Rossford about working out some kind of an agreement. At this point, the township's fire, police, and EMS is strictly township business. We're working on, we've talked about it. If we don't work out an agreement with the city of Rossford, then Rossford has plans already in force to build a fire station and locate their emergency services in that. And I would correct you that the amphitheater is not an island. It is a part of the entire section that has been annexed to Rossford. There's, what, 1,200 acres, Vince? About
Close to 1,400.
1,400 acres in that, and it is on the easternmost part of that project, but it is not an island. It bounds Lime City Road. Across the road is township, but where the amphitheater sets is actually contiguous to all of the Crossroads of America property.
Okay.
So that's what we're looking at, a possibility. We've had two meetings with the city of Rossford. We're trying to work out some arrangements whereby the township might provide services, but any services that would be provided to Rossford would not be at the expense of the township. We would work out a contract, and Rossford would be paying their fair share, if not even more, because of additional expenses that we would have. And if we can arrive at a final contract, we'll work it out. If not, no, Perrysburg Township will not be servicing the project, either the project, the amphitheater, or any of the other area. Although, from a logistical standpoint, it would make more sense to work out something. So we're trying to get a good, justifiable contract that will be fair to both sides.
Thank you for that question this afternoon, Cindy. Mr. Hagemeister, you said you'd like to see the project go forward. Do you have any sense as to how the other two Perrysburg Township trustees feel about the issue?
Well, I think that we're all anxious for it to go forward, because if it doesn't, we're definitely losing $5 million. If it folds, if it becomes the Rossford sledding area, the money that we have invested, we're not going to get back. We need to see it go, because it's going to help everybody. And from a greedy point of view, I guess you'd say, we're going to get our money back if it is a success, if we can work something out for it to succeed.
Okay. Well, David, as the reporter who's talking to the community about this issue, I'm going to give you a chance to give some advice to the authority board here. What do you think that they ought to do differently to bring the people of Rossford and Perrysburg Township into this process, or perhaps at least make them feel like they're more a part of the process?
Well, I think as a reporter, I think, you know, you need to always be as open as you can. And I think since the Arena Amphitheater Authority has come in, that's happened. All those meetings are open. They do a pretty good job of telling us, you know, when they're happening and when they're not.
So they're on the right track now.
Yes, but I think sometimes it's sort of frustrating. Things come up like this, the new plan, that all of a sudden it seems to come out of nowhere, and you wonder, well, you know, why wasn't there some sense that this was come down? So I think openness is always the best policy.
Well, we got about 30 seconds, Mr. Langevin. I'm going to give you a chance for the last word here today. What is it that you want the people of Rossford to know about this project right now?
I think the most important thing about this project is everyone in Rossford was worried we're going to put a tax levy on the ballot. We are not going to put a tax levy on the ballot. We are only going to pledge millage in the event there's a shortfall, and all projections indicate there should never be a shortfall. Okay,
well, we're all out of time. I'd like to thank you all for being here today and for sharing your insights about the future of the Rossford Arena. Rossford City Administrator Vince Langevin, Perrysburg Township Trustee Nathan Hagemeister, and Sentinel-Tribune reporter David DuPont. Thank you at home for watching. Next week, we turn to the topic of farmland preservation. Should we spend public money to keep prime farmland out of the hands of developers? That's next Sunday afternoon at 3:30. Have a good evening.